Alright, my math friends, we are moving on. It is a brand new quarter and it is time for a new chapter. Now we are moving on to chapter 4, and I'm thankful we're on chapter 4 for two reasons. First reason, we're finally done with chapter 3, which that was taking forever, and chapter 4 is much more interesting. And the second one, good reason, is that you guys can use calculators on this chapter. Yay! Alright, you can use calculators because I'm more interested that you can be able to tell what operations you need to do rather than knowing if you can multiply or divide. I'm not testing you on this chapter if you can multiply or divide. I'm testing you to see if you know which numbers you need to use to multiply and divide. Okay, that's what's going on here. That's the change. What is a unit rate? Let's talk about that. A unit rate is used every single day, but you just don't know what it was. Alright, a unit rate tells us the speed or rate that an event is taking place. It's used every day, but people just don't say it. Like, for example, if you're driving a car and they want to know what speed you're going, no one's going to say, hey, what was the unit rate that you were driving? Okay, we just don't use that in common language. What they say was, how fast were you going? And you can say, well, I was traveling 60 miles per hour. Okay? Or if you're talking about the weather and a forecaster, a meteorologist wants to know how much snow was falling, they may say something like, well, there was 3 inches of snow falling each hour. Okay, that's another unit rate. If I'm fishing, like for example, I like to go fishing on the Copper River in the summer and go dip netting, and if someone asks, hey, how is the fishing? I could say, well, the fishing was really good. And if they want more information, like, well, how good? What do you mean? I could say, well, I was catching about 10 fish each hour. Okay, that gives a person a good indication on how much fish I was catching. Alright, unit rates are used all the time. It gives people good information about it. And usually what a unit rate is usually we write the unit rate as a number or something compared to the one of something else. Alright? It's written as a number and it's compared to the one of something else. Let me clear that up a little bit. Driving a car, 60 miles per hour. Alright? That's 60 miles in 1 hour. 60 miles in 1 hour. Okay? It's a number of something, the number of miles in one of something in 1 hour. Same with this, 3 inches in 1 hour. 10 fish in 1 hour. Alright, that's how we talk. That's how we give unit rates. That's how we give people information. Okay? Let's take a look at what else we have here. Before we get into calculating that, I want to get back to something like this. Okay, for example, if we use like 60 miles per hour unit rate, for example, if we were going to try and tell someone how fast we were going, we do not say, oh, how fast were you going? Well, I was traveling 300 miles in 5.5 hours. Okay, we just don't talk like that. Alright, if someone wants to know how fast you're going, you would not tell them this. You would give them a speed, 60 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, okay? If you say something like this, you're going to be a weirdo, and you might not have very many friends, alright? And I don't want that to happen to you guys. I want you guys to have friends, so we're going to learn how to talk in unit rate so that you can have some friends, okay? Let's take a look at some examples, and let's see how we're going to find the unit rate. First examples we have is finding the unit rate using a number greater than 1. Okay, here is our situation. A car traveled 450 miles in 9 hours. Write the unit rate of the car. We want to know how fast this car was going. We have this information. We want to see how fast it was going. Alright, here's what we're going to do. For all unit rates, we're going to make and don't get scared when I write this word, guys. we're going to make a fraction. Okay, now don't freak out on me because I already told you, remember, fractions are just a division problem in disguise. Okay, don't let them freak you out anymore. You guys are old enough for that. No need to be scared of fractions. So here is our fraction we're going to write. We're going to take 450 miles, and our underneath we're going to have 9 hours. Okay, there's our fraction, 450 miles over 9 hours. We set that up, and now we're just going to divide because that's exactly what a fraction bar means. 450 divided by 9. Okay, and when you do that, when you take 450 divided by 9, you are left with 50 miles per hour. That's the unit rate of the car. That's how fast it was driving. Okay, I'm not going to work out the steps of division because I told you we're going to be, we should know how to divide this by now, and we're using a calculator for this. Okay, so if you need some extra help when we go through these division steps, let me know and I can give you some extra help. But we're going to really focus on setting up the unit rate and how to calculate this number. Alright, now you may say, Mr. Peterson, this looks really easy, okay? Without even setting up a fraction, I already knew that I had to divide this by 9 to get that. Why did I have to go through this step? Well, I'm starting you off with some easier problems before we get more complicated, okay? Number 2 is a little bit more complicated. Here we have a person ran 15 3/4 miles in 3.5 hours, okay? Now we're dealing with a couple more fractions, which is not as nice and clean as this was. Write the unit rate of the person running. We want to find out how fast that person was running. Okay, I'm going to throw something else at you here, guys. We're going to make a compound fraction. Okay, now I know that sounds even scarier than just even making a fraction, a compound fraction. All that it is just a big granddaddy fraction. All right, it's going to be a huge fraction. Watch what we do here. We're going to take 15 3/4 miles over 3.5 hours. We'll label that HR, that for miles. Okay, a compound fraction is basically when you have a fraction already and maybe another number or a fraction, and you're turning the whole thing into one big fraction. Alright, this is like the granddaddy fraction here. But it still means the same exact thing. We're still taking 15 3/4 divided by 3.5. Alright, you're going to set that up the same exact way on your calculator. Now for me, I don't like working with fractions very much, so I would actually change this into a decimal. So I would go 15.75, okay, we did that in chapter 3, over 3.5. Alright, we also did that in chapter 3, how to change fractions into decimals. Now I got 15.75 divided by 3.5. When I do the math on that, I am left with 4.5 miles in an hour. That's how fast the person was running. Alright, let's take a look at some other examples here. Alright, if we're going to find the unit rate using numbers less than 1, okay, check this out. We have a car traveling 17 miles every 1/4 hour. Write the unit rate of the car. Okay, no problem. We're going to make another compound fraction. That is our key to this whole entire thing for solving this. And I'm going to set this up like this. I'm going to take 17 miles over 1/4 of an hour. Alright? And we're just going to divide this to see how fast this car was traveling in an hour, so we can get to the unit rate, our 1 hour, one of something. Alright, so I'm going to divide this out. I'm just going to take 17 divided by 1/4, which we could also make it 17 divided by 0.25 if you like working with decimals. Run that number out on a calculator and you're going to get 68 miles per hour. Alright, that's how fast that car was driving. Okay, here's another unit rate. Check it out. Now we're going into something a little different. It costs 67 cents for 1/5 gallons of gas. Write the unit rate of the cost of gas. Okay, so stop right here. See, this is why we need unit rates, because nobody talks like this. No one says, oh, I paid 67 cents for 1/5 a gallon of gas. You should go buy some gas there. It's a great deal. No, we don't talk like that. We're going to get this into some information that we can use. Okay, so we're going to take and make a fraction again, a compound fraction. We're going to take our 67 cents and we're going to put that over 1/5 of a gallon. Okay, that's a G there for a gallon. And 1/5, I know from chapter 3, if I convert that into a decimal, that is going to be 0.2. All right, then that makes a lot simpler division problem. 67 cents divided by 2, and that's going to get me $3.35 per gallon. Okay, this is the way people would communicate when they're looking for which gas station to purchase gas from. All right, and that would not be a very good deal, by the way. I would not want to get gas there. Okay, we did some of these unit rates. Let's take a look at some more examples here. Sometimes we can compare situations where we have unit rates to see what's going on. Here we have pool A leaks 2/3 of a gallon in 15 minutes. Pool B leaks 3/5 of a gallon in 20 minutes. Which pool is leaking? Misspelling. Which pool is leaking at the faster unit rate? Okay, so we're going to set this up. We're going to make a fraction for pool A. All right, and our fraction is going to be, we're going to take 2/3 of a gallon. Okay, 2/3 of a gallon. And I'm not going to put this over 15 because I want to know how much water is leaking in an hour. Okay, so to find out, we're going to make a fraction out of 15 minutes, and we're going to convert that to hours by doing this. 15 minutes is equal to 60 minutes in an hour, and that fraction would simplify down to 1/4, which is the same as 0.25. Okay, that's nice and easy to work with. But I already got a fraction here. Let's use 1/4. Let's use this fraction here. Okay, so we're at 1/4 of an hour for pool A. Let's take a look at pool B. Pool B is at 3/5 gallon leaking every 20 minutes. So let's change this one around too. So we're going to take 20 minutes out of 60 minutes in an hour, and if we simplified that down, that is going to get us 1/3. All right, so we have 3/5 of a gallon leaking in 1/3 of an hour. Now we're ready to go ahead and divide this out and see what we get. These are some pretty simple fractions to divide. That's why I left them like that. 2/3 divided by 1/4, so that means I got to take 2/3. And remember from chapter 3, when we divide, we're actually going to multiply by the second fraction flipped around. We're going to do that. That's going to get me 8/3, and I can simplify that, make that into a mixed number. 3 goes into 8 2 times, and then my remainder is going to be 2/3. Okay, so this is how much gallons is leaking in an hour for tank A. 2 2/3 gallons in 1 hour. Now let's take a look at tank B. We'll see what's going on there. We're going to take and do the same thing. 3/5 divided by 1/3, so 3/5. Remember, we multiply, flip the second fraction around so it looks like this, and that's going to get me 9/5. And I can change that around into a mixed number. 5 goes into 9 one time, and I have 4 as my remainder, and I'll just leave it over 5 gallons per hour. Now it's a whole lot easier to see what's going on. Tank A is obviously leaking faster, 2 2/3 gallons for an hour compared to 1 4/5 gallons for an hour. All right. I have a couple try this problems for you guys, and then see how you do using those steps. Use your division, see what you get, and then we'll take a look at your answers.